Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, we're going to do a champion guide on one of the new epics today. I actually think he's one of the best new epics that have come into the game. So I got him, I leveled him, done all that shenanigans. Achak the Wendarin. And what I've done initially is just pushed him into some damage savage gear, just because I want to see if his A1 and his A3 actually hit hard. Then we'll put him into gear that's kind of a bit more sensible for what he does. But what have I got here? We've got an A1. His kit, by the way, across the board is awesome. Like when I rated him on my website, and I kind of go through things like booked priorities. For me, he can take books on all of his skills and really kind of make use of them. He's someone that really benefits from books, but he does enjoy a read. 7, 10, 14, 15 books to get him maxed out. And he kind of benefits from all of those skills getting books. It's not like, you know, this skill's just for damage. It's not going to help you at all. Actually, all of the skills kind of gain you better cooldowns or better chance to land. And all of those things are really important. So, A1 then attacks one enemy, 30% chance of decreasing the duration of a buff. So, you know, if the clan boss has got his increased attack up, you can take the buff down by a turn if they're under HP burn. Also got a 30% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15% if they're under freeze. The shame with this part is that you can't freeze a boss. And where would that turn meter gain be really useful? Actually against bosses like Spider or you know, Fire Knights or whatever. So it feels like, in my opinion, if they'd switch those two abilities around, it would make way more sense. Because you can burn a boss, and therefore you would be able to get the reduced buff. I guess most bosses don't have buffs. I guess this is mainly a PvP setup, kind of A1. For PvE, I can't really think of a position that this actually happens, any of it, for bosses. It happens for like wave control, yes. But in terms of trying to beat a boss anywhere, I don't think it activates anywhere, either one. So that's a shame, but pretty cool A1 for, you know, like wave control or for PvP. A2 is brilliant, straight up brilliant. Block buffs and strengthen, two of the strongest buffs in the game on one skill, is great. 4-turn cooldown. This is going to be good for clan boss. This is going to be good for Spider. It's going to be good Dragon, like anywhere where you're going to take a ton of buffs, it's going to be a strong skill. And strengthen, straight up, you reduce your damage by 25%, which is massive. So really like this A2. And then we've got an A3, which attacks all enemies, 70% chance of placing a freeze for one turn on enemies who have got higher attack than defense, and 70% chance of placing HP burn if they've got higher defense than attack. So I'll show you this. This only will ever freeze in someone like Spider, and Spider's probably the more important section to do this. But you know, AoE freeze is a massive skill. AoE HP burn is a massive skill. So you've kind of got the ability to manipulate the two here, depending on what you do. Originally, in my head, I was thinking, well, maybe if you drop the defense of of defense-based champions, you might actually be able to switch it in your favor. As in, you know, you drop defense of defensive-based champions, and maybe you can switch it to a freeze if you want to. Or you drop the attack of an attack-based champion, and maybe it switches to a burn. But I don't feel like there's enough of that chance to have. It just doesn't feel like it's viable. It doesn't feel like it's a viable thing to do, apart from in like really niche situations. So I think it straight up will just be attack-based champions are going to get a freeze, and defense-based champions are going to get a burn. And what this does in Spider is it will freeze, which is actually a really great skill. And then this is the bit I like the most about this guy's kit. So he's got a passive, which if you get that freeze off, everyone in your team, whenever a freeze debuff gets renewed, or so someone doesn't get a turn because of freeze, everyone in your team gets 10% of their turn meter. Just think about that for a second against Spider. When you're up against like 8, 9 Spiderlings, you're basically giving your team a full turn meter bar from freezing the enemy. which is massive. So we're going to get in, we're going to try this out. We've got a defense in all battles aura as well, which is strong. But we're going to try him out. The first thing I've done though is I've thrown him into Savage Gear. I've got his attack up high. He's got his crit up high and his crit damage up high. We're going to see if he can smack anything. I forgot to put him in Helm Smasher, which is annoying. I've got him in War Master. But we'll get a gauge. We'll get a gauge of what he can do. I should show you the masteries I've done properly, actually. So I did the masteries thinking more like, everyday masteries. What am I going to use across the board? So we've got War Master, because I don't think his damage is going to be high, but it might be. But I think from where you're going to use him, you're going to get the most bang for your buck out of War Master. But we've done the standard kind of crit damage. I've got Life Drinker in there mainly because I wanted Cycle of Violence. But this might be irrelevant if we don't hit very hard with our freeze ability. So, if you freeze and you do a third of like a Spiderling's damage health with that freeze move, then this becomes very relevant because you can get the cooldown on your freeze ability to be reduced a turn, which is massive. And we got into War Master, I think that's where most of the damage will come from. I've gone Support Tree. Mainly I wanted Arcane Celerity. 10% turn meter when a debuff drops off. Awesome for Spider. I have gone Sniper because his skills, neither of his skills go to 100%. You've got 90% on the freeze or burn, and you've got 30, 40, 50% on the A1. But this doesn't improve your chance of a freeze. It does improve your chance of an HP burn. So, I don't know. It's mainly this is it. Celerity here and the A1 Evil Eye gives us that turn meter drop. They're the main reasons that I chose Support Tree. So, let's do this. Let's get him out for a whack first, see what he can do. So all his abilities are based on attack, even though he's a support champion, so he's got high defense and high HP. The usual setup here, we're throwing out poisons, we're poisoning ourselves, and then we're going to get a hit off. So on the A2, it's just strengthen and block debuffs. It's not going to give us any damage. On the A3, though, we've got an AoE hit. So let's see what this does. Slow it down. Remember, he's built for damage right now, apart from he doesn't have Helm Smasher on, which he should have. What are we doing? 14k. Looks like we've done a chunky one here. I didn't actually see what that damage was, but we've done freeze, 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 freeze. So even a defensive champion has been frozen on that move. Even a defensive champion. So that is saying to me that his attack was higher than his defense. Interesting. Interesting. Even though he didn't have decreased defense on either. Not interesting. That's weird. Is it not weird? Maybe that's a bit strange. And that's what I was saying. Like, it feels like we get the freeze off way more than we get the burn off. Let's try the A1. No decreased defense. 36k hits. It's actually pretty good. Let's just drop some turn meter here. Gonna cycle back around to that ability again. As long as he doesn't kill them all. Right, okay. So we've got drop defense, drop defense, drop defense. Let's see it again one time. Okay, so it's more like 90 to 100. It was 114k. So we're hitting for 100k when we're full out damage gear across the board. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's kind of like probably a bit weaker than Shiramani damage. We've got block debuffs now up for, when the dragon gets going, which is cool. But I'll show that stuff when I got him in this proper build. Reasonable damage, I'd say. Reasonable damage. Considering we didn't have Helm Smasher as well, that would proc it up to more like 140, 150. So an AoE hit, which actually is not too bad. But bearing in mind, it's as strong as it's ever going to be. That was as strong a kind of hit as we're ever going to see him do. Okay, so I'm going to try something I've not really done for a while. I've gone for Reflex Gear. So Reflex was buffed. You get a 40% chance to reduce the cooldown of a random skill. So we really like this A2 coming back as often as possible. And we really like the A3 coming back as often as possible. And it's on a 3-turn cooldown already when it's booked. And bearing in mind, if we use it for Spider, I'm thinking especially Spider 19 in my head, but Spider 20 can also work. If you use it for Spider, you freeze a ton of champions. You pretty much get a free turn on the back of that, and then you go in and have the chance to reduce the cooldown as well using reflex gear. I just feel like it could be pretty broken on him. So I've done reflex gear, I've done 2 sets speed, we've got HP gloves, we've got defense chest, speed on the boots. I've kept the attack ring on, but probably most people would use HP or defense. We've got a defense amulet and we've got an accuracy banner. And then pretty much I was just looking for speed, accuracy, and crit rate everywhere else. But the crit rate, if I'm honest, is like a luxury. Really what you need here is enough accuracy to land your abilities, enough speed to rotate those abilities, and then defense and HP to keep him alive. That's kind of what most people would be doing in their builds. So we are going to throw him into everything here. I'm going to start with Spider though, because I think that's where he's going to be broken. And so many people say to me, how do you beat Spider 19? So many people. So we're going to show him off on Spider 19. Okay, so we're going to try something like this then. I've got a Seal in for like additional control and off tank. Apothecary for speed up and off tank. We've got Wendarin doing freezes. Turn meter control, turn meter control. Hopefully that's enough. Hopefully that's enough. So I'll click the spider because that makes Soul Bond actually kind of activate our abilities properly. Get the turn meter down there. And again. And we're kind of relying now. So we've got the strengthen up at the moment. That's the first kind of ability that he does. There goes the freeze. Basically hit everyone. Watch out. Let me slow this down. Watch our turn meter bars fill. We are gaining turn meter like crazy when these freezes drop off. Which means we're cycling for our abilities so damn fast. And obviously when you don't have a proper tank setup, so my Seal I've not built any differently to normal. She's just in kind of a tanky set. Get a block debuff up. Beautiful. Get the odd stun off there from Soul Bond with a stun set on. And hopefully we'll just cycle back round to that freeze again. There it is. Everyone's frozen. And wow. This guy's actually busted good for this. Busted good for this. Especially with a reflex gear that you can just get your cooldowns back. So we get some stuns off there from Seal. And we're reliant on turn meter control from Armager and Soul Bond. Strengthen and block debuff goes up. Seal shrugs off the damage. And away we go. Freezes again on like, what, 8 out of the 10. Now, you kind of don't want them to just die from a hit like that. You want them we want the freeze to wear off because that's how you get your extra turn meter. Which is, you know, you can't do too much about that, but I'd say one of the best Spiderling control champs I've seen, including like legendary champions, especially if you cycle through those abilities fast. You know, relentless gear, reflex gear is going to be good, or just straight out really fast. You know, loads of speed gear would be good as well. So this is him on Spider 19. You can see how effective it is. It's actually bonkers. And I've not got anyone in any kind of special gear here anywhere else. We've got about 240 speed Apothecary, which is decent, but not crazy. We've got a stun set Soul Bond in OK gear, nothing crazy. We've got Armager in his Destroy set from Scarab King, so he's actually in quite bad gear. So I don't have good Destroy gear at all. You saw the Wendarin stuff. And Seal is just in, she's actually in Relentless gear. She's in pretty good gear. But not like super high defense, so she can be a crazy tank. She's just got Relentless gear on, so you know, she gets back to her stuns as quick as possible. Really love his kit though. For this, amazing. I'm going to let this roll through, and then we're going to try him out on Spider 20. So guys, for Spider 20, I'm just thinking change it up a little bit, because if you don't have someone in who's a Force Affinity champion, you kind of want them to be your tank. Ideally. And Wendarin's got high enough defense and HP to be a Spiderling tank. So I've actually thrown him in resistance banner now. 260 resistance. I've done defense on the gloves and the chest to bring his defense up. He's still quite fast. He's still in reflex gear. You don't need the reflex gear and that type of stuff. You could even put him in something like frost gear and get more freezes out. Because obviously when the freezes proc, you get some turn meter gain. So it's not a bad idea to throw him in Frost Gear if you're going to do this type of strat. What I'm thinking to do for Spider 20 is to have him in the mix, Seal, him in the mix as the tank, Seal as some like stunnage, turn meter control. I do need more turn meter control than that, won't be enough. Probably a Cold Heart or something, and maybe someone like a Stag. Or a Tay-Rail. Tay-Rail's good here. And a Cold Heart or a Soul Bond. Anyone who's going to do some turn meter control as well. So, or you could even just bring in some more speed. But I think Soul Bond would be good, or Cold Heart would be better if you got one. So you kind of got Stun, Freeze. The Freeze will probably only land on like 4 or 5 people at a time. But still, if you think about it, for a tank, what's it going to do to you? It's going to give you, if you freeze 5 people, 5 spiderlings, you're basically just going to be getting half a turn meter bar. That's what he's there for. So all of a sudden now, he's got defensive abilities. He's got a setup which can freeze, and I mean we've got tons there actually. We're lucky there. We've got like 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7. So you've got like 70% of your turn meter bar straight away being filled for your whole team from your tank. It's kind of nuts. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant sort of setup there from this guy. Can he stay alive though? So we're not taking the poisons, but he's going to drop. Even with that big defensive shield, defense number, we had like 3.5k, 4k. Still couldn't quite deal with it. But another load of freezes. 1, 2, only 4 that time. It's probably about more like what you're going to get on average. Still throws out the stuns to keep us going. And obviously from there, it's just a case of, do you have enough in your team over the course of the fight to kind of keep everyone alive, keep the turn meter bar down. There we go. Nice Heartseeker coming in. So I think he can do this job pretty well. He's not, like an out-and-out tank, awesome champion like a Drexar or like a Razin or, Kantra. He's not in that kind of level, but in terms of bringing you speed plus utility plus, the option as a tank, I think he's kind of good. So, again, there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 or 6 freezes at a time. We will take it. We will take it and be happy with it. So, yeah, awesome champion for Spider. One of the best new epics in the game for Spider, I would say. So there we go. Through Spider. Actually ended up doing, because he's got AoE abilities, 1.9 mil damage, which is a lot more than the Tay-Rail, more than the Armiger. But a lot of that was done against Spiderlings. So let's see what he can do elsewhere. I might as well leave him in the same kind of setup. There's no reason why not to. But you can equally kind of just take him into whatever gear you want. Now, for Ice Golem again, we've got the weak affinity for 20, which is not ideal. It'd be interesting, though, just to see what abilities he actually puts on the boss here in terms of freeze, or the ads, I mean, rather than the boss, freeze or burns. I think the rest of it just kind of works. So he will be the target on the ads. Let's just slow down a second. Here we get the strengthen first, of course. It's almost a shame that's his default. And it is freeze, freeze, and then didn't land on the other ones. I guess it must have got weak hits. That's the problem with 20. He's getting weak hits, which means he won't land those abilities. See wave 2. This is kind of where you'd love that freeze to pop, actually. So we get freeze. So it looks like it's freeze by default on all of these ads as well. Most champions in the game that I've seen so far. In fact, I don't think I've seen him land a burn yet. I honestly don't think I've seen him land a burn. But you can see between him and Seal, we are controlling these guys really well. Didn't take much damage there because he had his strengthen up. Freeze again. Freeze on 3 of them. I mean, considering he's the wrong affinity, so far he's done a cracking job. Cracking job for these waves. Got a decreased defense and weaken out. Get a strengthen up, which straight out just reduces 25% of the damage this guy's going to whack on us. In comes that freeze. So it's freezes again. Yeah, it's freezes everywhere. Is he brilliant here? Not brilliant, but he's actually kind of good as well. Like, he's still good. Freezing the ads is nice. It's not crazy, but the strengthen and block debuffs is actually pretty crazy against this guy. So he's not going to do anything to the boss. Even if you've got a hit there, he's not going to freeze the boss. And it would be a freeze on this guy. Definitely his attack is high. So strengthen up there just means that we're cool. We're fine for this. Not taking too much damage. Again, gives us a side swipe and we just kind of glance it off. Get the freezes on both ads. Pretty solid, guys. Pretty solid for Ice Golem as well, even at level 20 where you got the wrong affinity. So he's not doing tons of damage here. You know, that's the main thing. You've got to appreciate that his kit here is about control and protection for your team, not about doing a bunch of damage to the boss. And that's why I chose War Master on him. War Master is easily the kind of better option when you've got someone that you don't expect to do a ton of damage. So again, I'll let this play through and then we'll try him somewhere else. So pretty clean run. 3 minutes odd. That's the way it goes. And now for Dragon, there's not really anything that he does in Dragon that's going to... I suppose he's got block debuffs for Dragon. He's the right affinity against Dragon. He freezes the waves. Yeah, pretty cool actually. Thinking about it, he's actually kind of cool for Dragon. So, you know, to run with the same sort of team, you might want to just get a bit more poison in this setup. So if you get a drop defense from a Tyrell or a War Maiden or any, it depends who you've got. Obviously, we could throw War Maiden in. I think she's still geared. Could throw a Bella in. Where is she? Where is that War Maiden? There she is. Okay. So yeah, you could go War Maiden. He comes in again with that defense aura for us. We'll do something like this. Because the nice thing about what he's doing here is, you know, yeah, we get the strengthen up and the block buffs, but when he gets his turn, he just throws the freeze everywhere. I still find it weird that even the defensive based mobs for this type of wave, you know, Tyrell's defense-based champion. I'm finding it weird that he's getting frozen and not burnt. I'm finding it weird that that's the way they've got him set up, but must be. He just freezes anyone. So again, wave control cool. When you get to the actual dragon, block debuffs and strengthen is nice. Yeah, I mean, generally, really good actually. Really good for kind of wave control and... that's a big old hit for Seal. But yeah, strong, throws in the whole lot again. No problem. So I'd say any dungeon, pretty good. Fire Knights, he doesn't have any multi-hits. And he's not going to do anything to the actual Fire Knight. So I'd say that's probably his weakest spot. But yeah, it could still help you with the waves. If you're struggling to get through the waves, he could still help you get through them with those freezes. The strengthen and the block debuffs comes in handy for Fire Knight. But just the sheer lack of any extra hits and the fact that his kit doesn't kind of tune itself to Fire Knight, I probably wouldn't be putting him in that team. So we'll get him into some arena fights now and just kind of see what happens with his A3 in the arena. Destroyed, yeah. Oh, it's a good piece. Wow, that's actually a really good piece. Okay, so yeah, Fire Knights, no thanks. Let's move on to arena. Just going to check actually, see if Demonspawn is open. It's not. For Faction Wars, he's definitely strong. Freeze, block debuffs, strengthen. Absolutely brilliant for Faction Wars. He will be top draw for Faction Wars. Yeah, I'll put him as a 4.5 on my website for that. So 3v3 arena then. I won't go on normal arena because it's just too easy right now. But we do have a team here that we're facing, which has got a mixture of offense and defensive champs. So you see... I'm expecting to get a freeze, a freeze, a freeze, and then a burn. That's what I'm expecting to happen. We'll see if that's the way it goes down. So we'll just drop in the A3 now. Obviously, we've got a weak hit potential here. Let's see what goes on. So we actually got a burn on the Kaimar as well. So Kaimar in this setup has been built with high defense. So I guess I'm just thinking to myself, like, what benefit am I getting with having a burn? Like versus just always a freeze. Because the other thing that I could have done there is, in fact, we should try it. We should try it. I lost that one. The rest of my teams are not really built in a minute. I lost that one there. So I can go back into the same fight. I'm just wondering if I put decreased defense out there first, if actually they all turn into freezes. So I'm actually going to try that same attack for a second time and just see if we drop decreased defense down on these enemies, whereas we had 2 burns here before. Now, this is the type of thing which I would want to be able to do with him. I'd want to be able to manipulate when he decides to choose a skill. So in this instance, we've dropped defense everywhere. Does that mean that I turn these 2 burns into freezes? It does. And that's kind of where I'd want him to be. Now, obviously, I haven't got this kind of tuned up for a team that's really going to go ham and win battles here. And also, Sifi just shrugs off a freeze like, it's like, oh, well, didn't really care about that. And she also does that for her whole team, which feels a little unfair, but that's the way it goes down. That is the way it goes down. But yeah, it's... At least you can manipulate it. So that's kind of what I like about it, because I think 9 times out of 10, you want the freeze. I don't feel like you want the burn very often. The challenge I've got is, if I had a choice of someone who I know is straight going to freeze every time, like a Gergo or a Shiramani, then I would probably pick them. But there's not many epics in the world that can do an AoE freeze. I think Luria is the only one who does it with any kind of... and Jingle Hunter, I guess, that do it with any type of certainty. So for those 2 areas, actually, he can be pretty effective. So let's just have a look at Doom Tower. Which bosses could it be actually useful for? I think AoE burn is what you want really for the spider here. So, in terms of being able to land your abilities, all that type of stuff. So let's just see what happens against this spider. So see what he does here. This is where I think he's going to be the most use for your team. So now E1. Get the leech up. So yeah, AoE, what's he going to do? So he does AoE burn, which is exactly what you want on this boss. So for this boss, top draw. Top draw, you need AoE burn against Sorath. And that's what he's doing as like a standard. So their defense must be higher than their attack. Which makes sense because the spiderlings don't even attack. Interesting though, we've just put decreased defense out there through through Lydia, and now we've switched it to a freeze. So obviously the boss will never take a freeze, but I wonder if we had... I'm wondering if we had defense down in the first place, whether he would have even have done the burn. It's a watch out because actually, in fact, I'm going to play this through. I'm going to kill these spiderlings off, get to the point where we can kill this boss, and then see what happens. He's not refreshing the burn if you've got decreased defense down on the boss. Which basically means that you can't kill the boss in that situation whilst decreased defense is down. You see, we've reapplied the burn there. Oh no, we did reapply the burn. Maybe it always just works. I'm intrigued now, actually. I'm going to take it off auto. I'm going to kill these little spiderling fellas. They're nearly dead. We'll take out the spiderlings. So at the moment, decreased defense is not on. I'm going to make sure it goes on before I try and reapply that burn. We've got another turn yet. It's important to know this because it massively changes his value in this fight. Just drop that turn meter. So if decreased defense and weaken goes out, let's see what happens here. Does he reapply burn? Debuff blocked. Debuff blocked, which makes me think that was a freeze trying to go on. In which case, he's only kind of guaranteed value for you if you get the burnout before drop defense goes on. Because right now, this spiderling will respawn. So you either don't bring a drop defense champion in here at all, because right now this spider just respawns. 2 turns on that anyway. I've got Lydia, so it's going to work anyway. But for the average person that's not breaking the game with Lydia, don't bring a decreased defense champion in if you're going to use the Wendarin. Because actually, although he's perfect for it, he's only perfect for it if you're not dropping their defense. Which is an interesting point. I think in other areas of Doom Tower, he could do a job for you, just in terms of being able to fight the fight. He's got the positive affinity for the dragon. He doesn't bring any provokes or anything like that, but he does bring strength and he does bring block debuffs. It won't block the hex, but it will block other abilities. So I think he's kind of strong here, but not crazy. Agref, I think, is awful for, because you don't want to be AoEing those spiders less. I guess unless you're guaranteeing the freeze, but you won't guarantee the freeze against negative affinity. So you'll just be setting off a load of poisons. And against the Scarab boss, he's kind of just like nothing really. He won't help you there. So there's a lot of areas to cover. I feel like I've talked a lot today. In terms of clan boss, he could throw out a burn for you. He can put strengthen and block debuffs on if you tune him properly just for that. Do I think he's worthwhile to bring into a clan boss team just for that? No. If you've got him as an early game account and you want to play around with clan boss, then I think he could probably do some work, but he's not going to be better than the kind of, the status quo of champions. Strengthen, though, is huge. Like, strengthen will take you through late into the game, but nothing else that he brings, strengthen and block debuff, sorry, are both really strong. But nothing else that he brings is going to really help you. So I don't think he's worth clan boss just for those things. So there you go, guys. I mean, loads to cover off there. I think he's an excellent epic. I think he's excellent. I think you just need to make sure that he's playing in the right teams for you, but especially for spider progression and for Sorath. I think he's going to be brilliant. So, guys, there you have it. Wendarin, the Wendarin even. Achak the Wendarin. I've been Hell Hades. I'll catch you later.